gorgeous. How are you doing today? I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. Welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. Michelle Daff, and I'm so happy to have you here with me today. We're talking today about how to get a man to open up to you, how to get a man to get in tune with his feelings and have deeper conversations. This can be simple things like, how was your day? Or it could be more deeply rooted things. Maybe something happened. Maybe you want him to open up a little bit about his past. Maybe there's something that you want to talk about and you want to get his true feelings and thoughts on them. Men are so different than we are, and it's so beautiful to be able to be open to learning about your man, your boyfriend, your husband, whoever. It could be your brother, but just learning a little bit about their nature, what they respond to, and sort of getting a almost formula sometimes to figure out the best approach. It's important to have relationships that are deeply rooted in love and understanding, and this is one of the ways that you can help him to grow closer to you. We all have different men, and some men are very open and free-flowing, and conversations just come really easy, and that helps you to connect and just makes life a little bit easier. It does. Communication is important. And some of us have men who are a little bit just like a brick wall. They just say few words, and getting them to get in touch with their feelings is like the biggest task. So it's important to think about these things and practice them to make your life better and help you to get closer to one another. So I want you to go ahead and sit back, relax, get something to drink, get something to write with, and let's talk about this. Before we get into this, I just want to mention that I am going to be speaking at the Ready to Bloom conference as the keynote speaker in Lawrenceville, Georgia on October 5th. So if you want to attend this women's conference, we're going to talk about femininity and love and dating and God and all the good girl stuff, then look at my link below and you can register for October 5th in Lawrenceville, Georgia. I'm super excited and I hope that you can make it. It's important that in relationships, couples are open to share and to just get a little bit more intimate than just the day-to-day things. We want to get to know each other on a level that brings understanding of who we are as people, because that's how we're going to connect authentically. However, men do tend to struggle when it comes to sharing their feelings, because growing up, society tells men that they have to repress their feelings, that they need to man up. They have their own sense of masculine pride that is very fragile. So when they do share things, because of their nature, if it's not met in the way that they hope it's met in, then there is disappointment. There are lots of feelings that kind of close them off. So men are extremely protective when it comes to opening up. And it doesn't mean that we're talking about like mushy gushy feelings. It could just be feelings about what they think about something. It's not anything deep, but if it's met with contempt, if it's met with just like a disapproval, disregarding, if it's met with a fight all the time, then they just close off. Men also feel like they're going to be judged often by the things that they say. So this can cause them to sort of close off their feelings and just be a little bit more hesitant to share things with people that they're just getting to know. And even when you've known them for a while, they get used to being in that mode, and it is difficult for them to trust. Another thing is that men sometimes feel like if they share their feelings, or if they share the truth about what they think, then you may perceive them as being incapable, as being weak, and the thought of you seeing them differently can make them feel like it's not worth sharing it with you. They really care about how you see them, and they want to show up as your masculine protector and your provider, and all those things that they share may make you question those things about them. And, oftentimes men also just struggle with communication in general. They struggle with finding the right words and being able to say it in the way that they're really feeling. And so the lack of vocabulary and the lack of experience with constantly talking, like most women do, they sometimes just don't know how to get it out. So it's important that we as women offer that safe space for men to be able to share. We live in a society today that really does disregard the feelings of men. It's really sad because men are part of this world. They're part of humanity. They're a huge part of humanity, and they have the same feelings we have as women. It's just expressed differently, or it's suppressed because they have to get things done and they have to do things in such a way that doesn't allow for a lot of time to think about their feelings and journal them. And it doesn't make them weak. It's just not a priority for them, but they have the same feelings. So we as women need to remember that and be a safe and open space for them to share. So I do have quite a few tips, but I don't want this to be too long. I want to drill one thing into your mind. No matter what tips I give you, if I give you an A to Z playbook on how to talk to a man and how to get him to open up, but your lifestyle doesn't reflect that you can be trusted, it will not matter. He will not open up to you. The biggest tip, if you take nothing else away from this, is that he is watching you. He is watching you in your interactions with the people in your life to determine whether or not you can be trusted. This means that if you are a woman who is very judgmental, when you're out with him, you're constantly like telling him about what this girl's wearing and she shouldn't be doing that, and things come up and you're down talking the person, you're calling the person stupid, you're watching something together, you're making judgmental comments, and it seems like you're always judging people in a harsh way, in a negative way. You're very critical of people. Maybe you're even extremely critical of yourself. He will see it as you being the kind of person that really cannot be trusted with his feelings, because you're going to criticize him. You're going to see him in a certain way, and he's not going to risk that. He's already watching you. When you're on the phone with your friends and you're talking about people, when you're telling him things that should have been a secret and he knows he's not supposed to know, but you're sharing it anyway, when he knows a person told you not to say anything, he's recording that like, okay, I see how she is. And it doesn't mean he doesn't love you. It doesn't mean that he doesn't want to be with you, but he may not feel comfortable sharing with you because he knows your nature. So if you want a man that you're with to truly be willing to open up with you, you need to be less judgmental as a person, more positive, more feminine, more loving, more compassionate. When he sees you in your daily life, showing empathy to people, being understanding if someone's doing something and they didn't quite do it right, or they got your order wrong, or they're taking too long to help you at the register, instead of complaining, you say, they look really busy today. I wish she had some help. Seems like she's really overwhelmed. If you get your food and it's wrong and you say, yeah, that's actually not what I ordered, but you know what? It's okay. Don't worry about it, right? If you just have moments where he sees you being the kind of woman who is loving and compassionate and sweet and understanding to the world, that's enough for him to know he can trust you with his feelings. So keep that in mind, because that matters most. We're going to fly through the rest of the tips, but listen up because they are also important. The first tip is to listen without judgment. This goes back to what I just said. When you're listening to him talk and he's expressing how things went, you are taking the time to hear him without forming your own thoughts and opinions about why it's not what it should be according to your standards. So when your man is talking, you are not jumping to conclusions. You're allowing him to speak. You're not giving him any unsolicited advice. When he's sharing with you, he just wants you to hear him, wants you to understand where he's coming from. Men are forward thinking in the way that they solve problems. Like, they're always trying to do things more effectively, more efficiently. And oftentimes their brains are already programmed to find a solution. So if they're talking to you, it's either because they have gone through all the solutions that they can think of, or they have one already. They just want to share it with you. So if you give unsolicited advice, or you just kind of like come up with a solution like, oh, you didn't think of that? Like, duh, how come it's going to make him feel like you're looking down on him, like he's stupid. His pride is very sensitive, probably much more sensitive than yours is. You have to remember that you are not the same as a man. Men and women are different. So when you say something, it must be said gently, warmly, softly, because he's going to be very sensitive to whatever you say. So when you're listening to him, you're setting aside your own feelings. You're allowing him to be able to just share, and you're just taking it in. And if you want to say, well, honey, do you want to know what I think? Or do you want to know what could be a good idea? Ask him if he even wants your advice, if you actually do have something that you think would be really helpful, because, you don't want to just shut up when you have something great, but think about the timing. Make sure the timing is appropriate for whenever you're saying what you're saying. As people, our personal beliefs and our personal feelings and our experiences, they shape the way that we perceive things. So depending on what you've gone through, you will see it in a completely different way than he sees it. And that's okay. That's why you're together. You're different. You bring different things to the relationship. But watch how you share whatever you share. And set aside your own insecurities. When you're talking to him and he's finally opening up, you may start hearing things that make you feel uncomfortable, that make you feel insecure. You may start wondering if it's something you said, something you did, if this is really about you. You're bringing yourself into something that could actually be not about you at all. I actually was on Instagram yesterday, and there was a man who made a video. It was a great video, and he was talking about how important it is for men to spend time with their sons, even if it's just going to the store, something really, really insignificant. Just ask, hey, buddy, do you want to come along? And it's not to say that you should not spend time with your daughters, but he was specifically making the point that boys should spend time with their fathers, and fathers should make it a point to invite their sons to spend time with them. You would not believe the amount of women in the comments who were furious, saying, well, I'm a single mom and boys need their mothers too, and it's not fair if they don't have a dad. Are you saying that they're not going to be all perfect? They were just going off on this man. And to me, it made no sense. That's not what this is about. People were saying things like, well, girls need their dads too. And what about the daughters? And daughters should spend time with their dad. It's that's not what this video was about, though. Those things are true, but that's not what this video was about. And it was shocking. I was actually genuinely shocked that this was the reaction that women had. And instead of saying, this is true, this is ideal, even if I don't have it, this is ideal. This is the problem oftentimes with communication. If your man is telling you something, do not get wrapped up in your own insecurities and your own issues. Listen to what he's saying, because you'll get something from what he's saying, and you'll be able to stay in the conversation without making it about you and without erroneously saying something that will just throw the conversation in a different direction. And then he'll really stop talking to you. So remove yourself. You got to zoom out, all the way out, and look at him as someone you love, but in a way that is going to be helpful. It's also important to not focus on fixing it. Just listen. You don't have to have the answer. And as women who want to help, as women who are loving, and you just want to be everything to your man. You just want to be everything, right? Which is great, but you're not there to fix all his problems. And as a feminine woman, it's important to remember that being your feminine oftentimes is about just the ability to receive, to lean back, to be still, to take in. You don't have to solve his problems, and he's not expecting you to solve them. That's actually not what he wants from you. So don't feel like you're less of a girlfriend, less of a wife, because you don't have the answer to his problem. What you can do is you can pray for him to get the answer. Or you can pray for the Lord to reveal the answer to you, and you can share it with him later. But don't put that pressure on yourself to solve his issues. When you're talking to him, it's also nice to reflect back what you're hearing from him. When he's telling you something, and maybe you're talking about something emotional or something very serious, you can just say, okay, it sounds like maybe you're frustrated about whatever. And be careful with that too, because if you use a wrong term, he can get kind of hooked on the term. So you don't have to actually give him the words. Some men do need the words. Your man. He may need that emotional vocabulary. Some men, they're too cerebral, they're too intelligent, and if you use a wrong word, it's going to throw it all off. So don't even use it. You can just say, okay, I understand that. I understand what you're saying. Yeah, this actually makes sense. Like something so simple like that will mean so much to him. To a woman, it's like, what? But for a man, it's like, yeah, see, I make sense. So it's just about taking it in and not trying to say things to dismiss it. Like, that's not a big deal. That's it. Oh, that's nothing. Don't dismiss it. If he's making it seem like it's heavy, don't make it seem like it's light. Work through it with him and lighten it up slowly, right? It's all about how you're handling those emotions. Of course, avoid interrupting him. Oftentimes we get excited as women, or we just want to help, or we have questions. Just let him talk. Don't interrupt him. Seriously. That is a conversation killer. Don't interrupt him. Do whatever you got to do to stop yourself. Squeeze your hands, tighten your lips, do whatever you have to do to stop yourself, but avoid interrupting him. And maintain open body language. Allow him to see that you're relaxed. You're not all uptight. I mean, I remember like talking to some adults in my life growing up, and when I had something to tell them, if I came to them with a serious tone saying, can I talk to you? It's like the whole time they're like this, like waiting for the ball to drop. And I'm like, relax. Okay. It's not that serious. Their intensity was making me stressed. So just listen, open body language, and don't make faces that make him feel like you're judging him. If he's saying something, if he made a mistake, if he's telling you what happened at work, he stole something you shouldn't have done, and you're like making these faces, it's going to make him stop talking and make him feel like you are judging him. We want to avoid that. So try to keep your face as neutral as possible. It's also important to know that men may need some time. Sometimes when they're talking, they are thinking through what they're saying because, again, they're not so used to opening up like this. So be patient and allow him to have the time it takes to articulate his feelings. And with that, it may not be like a one-time deal. The conversation may trickle over a few days. So he may say one thing on Monday and then okay, thanks for sharing that with me. And then on Tuesday, he's like, yeah, like how we were talking about yesterday, I was thinking, and then he adds a little bit more to it. So don't try to extract everything from him. If he's telling you something deep, if he's telling you about something he did wrong, if he's sharing things with you about work or a travel experience, don't expect everything at once. Just open up and let him take his time. There's no rush. Emotional conversations can be complicated, very complex at times, and so they can be slow. And slow is good. We want to slow down. Okay, this is not a text message. This is a real person who's sharing real things with you. Allow him to have the time that he needs. And with that, as he's speaking, again, like I said, not to interrupt him, but also allow for those long pauses. Okay, men are different than women. They may take a while, and he's gathering his thoughts. Don't try to just fill in a sentence for him. If you think that he's looking for a word and he's not quite getting it, don't try to fill the word in for him. Let him take as long as he needs. We have to get comfortable with silence. Silence is powerful, it's beautiful, and sometimes he's just like adding on. He's thinking deeply, and that's a good thing. He's not just spewing things out. He's really thinking deeply. Allow him to do that without appearing rushed or that you have all the answers. And it's also important, honey, this one's really important, not to get offended. Because sometimes when men are sharing things with you, maybe the things that you're saying back to him, he doesn't value, or it's a new thing for him to even be talking to you. So he's wondering why you're even asking these questions. Sometimes he'll say like, and why are you asking me that? And you get offended. You're like, dude, I'm just trying to connect. Like, why are you, don't get offended so easily. It's really important not to get offended easily as a person. Just allow him to go through his emotions, okay? It doesn't matter if he gets irritated that you're asking a question. You know why you're asking it. You know it's in love. Lead with love and end with love. Like, let love trickle through the entire conversation. Even if he comes off combative or mistrusting, that's okay. It's okay. If you ask him a question like, oh, sweetie, so how was work today? And he's like, it was really interesting. I met with this client. His name was Scott, and he was a really interesting guy. And you're like, oh, really? How does he look like? What does he look like? And he's like, why are you asking what he looks like? How is that relevant? I'm not answering that. Don't get offended. Okay, maybe you just wanted to make conversation. You're a girl. You're like, oh, what does he look like? Like, that's the question that came to your mind when, for a man, his looks meant nothing. It was completely irrelevant for the conversation. He wanted to tell you what happened with Scott. He didn't want to go into all the details about what Scott looks like and how he walks and all the things that we as women may want to hear about. But don't get offended. He may be annoyed and irritated with you and think you're stupid and asking stupid questions, and now he doesn't want to talk to you anymore. That's okay. That's okay. The next day you say, so have you heard back from Scott, or how did things go with Scott? He will continue whatever he wanted to tell you in the first place. But if you say something that he thinks is stupid or immature or whatever, you just don't know enough about his field to be talking to him. It's okay. Just be open. It's actually very important that when you are talking with men and you want them to open up more, that you allow for a consistent persona. Like, your demeanor, that's what I was looking for, not persona. Your demeanor should be consistent with him. That means consistently being open, being loving, being patient, being soft. It needs to be something that he can expect to get from you and actually get it each time. This will allow him to continuously talk to you. This will allow him to look forward to talking to you and make your conversation smoother. Another really important thing, especially for those of you who are with men who really don't talk to you much, who really don't open up and share much, and you really are finding it difficult to connect. Like, this is actually a requested video, and I've been getting this question often, and I know that this is something that a lot of women are struggling with, but it's something that they don't really talk about a lot because you just kind of forget until it comes back up. It's worth putting the effort into. It's worth connecting with your man in a way that really does bring love and happiness to the relationship. Even if you don't care about what he's talking about, having those moments where you are connecting and he's happy and you're, just in love is a great feeling. So it's worth it. The environment does matter. If you are having a conversation or you want your husband or your boyfriend to talk to you more, or if you have a very serious conversation that you're going to talk about, you've planned it, or you want to ask him a serious question, the environment should be conducive to that. So try to allow him to be comfortable. Make the place look comfortable. If you have a home and you have couches and things like that, make sure he has pillows and blankets and just things to get cozy and comfortable. We're all more open when we're comfortable. You can make it a mood. You can dim your lights, make sure that there aren't a lot of distractions. You can choose quiet spaces that don't have interruptions, like making sure you're not doing things like going out to a busy restaurant or talking on a bus or a train, but in your home, in the comfort of your home, when your children are asleep or at school, making sure your phone is off. Just giving him undivided attention is all he wants. And allowing him to know that you're going to keep this conversation private. You're going to keep it respectful. If he tells you things and it was really important to you, you can just let him know, like, I'm so honored that you share that with me, or thank you so much for being so vulnerable with me, or thank you for sharing that with me. It was really important to me that you were willing to share this part of you. Being open in that way means a lot to him. For some men, it helps if you share a little bit about yourself too. Like, yeah, my father was the same way when I was younger. Don't make it about you. Don't get too deep into your thing. But even if it's at a later time, you can open up a little bit about yourself, which helps him to be more comfortable. But it's important that if he does share something really important with you, that you seal it with acknowledging that you appreciate it, and you will make sure to keep it sacred. That information will never be shared, and it should never be shared with anyone else or used against him, ever. So my love, just be consistently supportive, understanding. Comments like, I could see why you feel that way. I understand that. That sounds really hard. Connecting with him with eye contact, with smiles, with love, with warmth, with just a little touch on his hand, with a rub on the shoulder, with a hug. Those small touches mean a lot. And you just being open and willing to take him in is all he's looking for. No judgment, all love and respect. So I hope that this video was helpful to you and it gave you some ways to open up conversations with your man. Let me know in the comments below how you like to open up conversations or things that you do to make things more comfortable, whether it's his favorite beverage or a warm pillow or some music, what you do to kind of set the tone, set the ambiance, and the things that you say and do to ensure that the conversations will be productive. I love you so much, and I thank you for being here. You can listen to my podcast, The Dr. Daf Show, if you want more conversations like this. And until next time, bye-bye.